And the rest of it is in the performance narratives, Mr. Chairman. I have got a few under that. So if I start with page 52, that's my concern around the business Hawke's Bay, which is only partially achieved, and given that it is our the intersector forum is particularly in this, can we get more regular reporting against that in future? It doesn't mean any alteration in the annual plan, but in the annual report, but is it possible for us to be kept more updated on where we are with this achieving the... And under the on page 54, having trouble reading my own writing. I just question, given the amount of work that has gone into both the Mohaka stakeholder group and into Tank, whether that really does represent what is happening there. It is a report on the process, so.
So you're talking about
on page 54.
What the partially achieved.
They prepare action plans and monitoring reports on the land and management strategy and national policy statement. There is actually a huge commitment under that, and I think the public should be aware that that process has grown into a much bigger one than was ever envisaged when it set out.
So the last sentence there refers to the numerous stakeholder engagement processes
yep.
that are underway. You want an expansion of that? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, I'm just asked for a little bit of clarification around that particular, an acknowledgement of the input that is going into that.
Okay.
And the commitment of the stakeholders in that process, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it is bigger than is elaborated there.
Mm. And then on page 55, there's a report back on the biodiversity inventory, which we voted to receive in this council meeting via the E&S committee. If we're going to build this into their long-term plan, which clearly we're going to have to look at funding for that, when will we get some idea of this delivery of their strategy via these? Because which is the cart before the horse? We're going to have to consider how we fund this and what funding is necessary.
Yes, certainly will, and I guess it kind of pivots on what the final strategy is. So there is a proposal, as outlined here, to structure the delivery of the strategy through various groups and forums and entities. That hasn't been confirmed and gone through a process of consultation and discussion. So it is a little bit of chicken and egg. My question is really around timing, Mr. Chairman, is are we actually going to be able to meet long-term plan provision deadlines and able to let this happen? One of the key areas that is likely to come out of that is certainly part of the long-term plan considerations is the need for a coordinator of the regional biodiversity strategy across all of the entities. And so we would be looking to a way of resourcing that. It wouldn't just sit solely with the regional council. It might be something that sits better in the Nature Central initiative, we're not sure. But certainly that's the one thing that pops out. Otherwise, the strategy is as much about getting alignment of resources, so doing what we do now better and more effectively. So it's getting that alignment right. And then if there is more cash required to do this work, that's the intent of the entity or the trust, is that they would generate that. But the various agencies, ourselves, Department of Conservation, Fish and Game, etc., would be looking to resource somebody to work in that coordination space, and that's what should come through in the long-term plan and in the workshops. Is that what you're talking about? Or?
I am. I'm just wondering, is the timing sufficient that we will actually make this in time to make adequate provision in our long-term plan, which we're currently working on?
I think we've got enough meat around the bones to do that reasonably well. Like I say, the resourcing commitments for this aren't necessarily going to be large, and we can give a fairly good indication of that at this point.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Page 68, Mr. Chairman, there's a reference to 2001, of which I have no idea what it means. That's under the end of year results.
Space oddity?
Fair comment. Don't know. That shouldn't look like that. No, don't know. Don't know where that comment of a gremlin come in. It's certainly not what I wrote.
Okay, that will be corrected, I take it,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. And just one other query, Mr. Chairman, still on the narratives. That's around the, on page 74, around the Tukitoki catchment sediment. And there's only a relatively small number of properties contribute to the bulk of the sediment. Have we actually identified where those properties are, and can we take direct action on improving that?
Yes, so that's work that Landcare have been doing for us to identify the critical source areas, and my understanding is that it would get down to the property scale to allow us to go to the critical source areas. Very much so. That's the intent of the work.
But we're not quite there yet.
Not quite there yet. So, but the intent is to have that level of detail to go and then take action on the ground.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So quick roundup. Any other questions here? Oh, sorry, Councillor Bill.
On page 52, the second box under year-end results about the R&D, where is that 1.1 million in the budget, in the plan? 1.1 invested in 25 company projects?
Project 179 under Strategic Development Group. Where is it? In the budgets. In the summary budgets.
And is a list of those 20, I mean, I would certainly like to see more details to where that money has gone, what it...
Well, where it's come from and where it's gone.
Where it's come from, where it's gone.
We can provide a list of the projects that are related to, in terms of where it is in the budget.
So it's discussed under economic development, but you're saying the money is, where, I'm sorry, where? Community something?
Through Mr. Chairman, I think it's supposed to be NZTA money, is it?
No, there's Callaghan funding. It's,
TE,
it should be in here somewhere, on page 50.
It'll be
Under
expenditure.
funding that comes in.
What is this?
Regular rates grants.
Not treated as income for us, is that? Can you just explain that?
I think what's happened here is that there's reference to the activity that's been undertaken, that this council's been involved in that space. It's not money that flows through our budget and out again.
So it's...
So perhaps it would be worthwhile at some stage for the councillors to hear from Jenny Brown, who's our Economic Development Officer, who administers this fund and deals with these companies that are referred to, Tom. But but the money is not ours to start with and doesn't go through our books. So she's really the conduit, if you like.
So that's the person making the judgment as to where to put this $1 million?
She receives the applications and has delegated authority from the Callaghan and NZTE to make some decisions on some of them, but when they're big, they go up to Wellington and they make the decision.
So they're not reviewed here in any economic development context or anything?
No. Set criteria that they need to comply with, and she's checking it against those.
But it might actually be useful for her to attend a corporate and strategic meeting, explain what she does and how she does it. That would be useful.
Would be useful, yeah. Okay, all good. Other questions before we get to the recommendations? Councillor Graham.
I said, just clarification, Paul, just on Councillor Barker's question. So the variance of cost is -3.
So could we have a page reference?
Oh, sorry, 14. If I just hope I'm reading this right, variance is 3% for cost and a positive variance of 3% for income. Is that right? Adding up all the meat in the sandwich?
Yeah, Councillor, that includes capital projects as well.
Yeah, I know,
yes,
I know that includes capital
yeah,
projects.
that'd be right. Yeah, I think that'd be, yep.
I would have thought that's a pretty good result.
Yeah, I mean...
Just on the reforecasting, so at what point do we do reforecasting? So do we do it?
No, it's done, it's reported to Council in the April meeting, and it's carried out by the managers after the first 9 months results are known, then they do the reforecasting and come to Council.
So that's 9 months.
Yeah.
So no other questions? Can we get to the recommendations? You wish to discuss them, Mr. Drury? You were going to take us there earlier in the discussion.
No, Mr. Chairman,
I
think I got out of order. You discuss everything, then you come back to recommend. Yeah.
Very going to speed our day up. I thought it was great.
Frank admission, I got out of order.
A great attempt. Great attempt. Okay, so we get to the recommendations. Do you have any further comments on the recommendations, Mr. Drury, or you?
No, I haven't, Mr. Chairman.
Pretty straightforward. Okay, so is anyone happy to move those recommendations? Councillor Scott, seconded by Councillor Graham. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Scott?
Mr. Chairman, it is overall a pleasing result to be in, and I think that it is a credit to staff that they have actually tightened their budgets so much, because we did put a lot of pressure on this annual plan last round, and since then lots of requests come in from us as councillors seeking progress that is outside what has already been budgeted for. And so I really think that overall the performance, even against the reforecasting, is extremely pleasing. So I'd just like to thank all the staff for, and the amount of work that goes into actually writing the annual plan, which is far more than just the financials, is huge. And I know how much of a effort goes into by various staff. So I take off my hat to them for the work that has been done. And I'd like to thank them. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder?
Yes, I would like to add to that. It's a very complex business, and clearly we're going to have lots of overs and unders. There's some more information which you need to deal with, but overall 3% variances, I think it's a pretty good result. I just want to make one comment. Something Councillor Scott raised about the Manuka, which I've been particularly interested in. I think having that in the accounts as a positive move that we're doing forward is quite, would be quite a good thing to have. We need to be aware of Convita's intellectual property. I don't know where that stands, but it just shows the public that we are doing innovative things to deal with some of the problems which we've got. So I'd quite like to see that in as well. Now you had a point that you wanted me to raise.
I was just pointing out what you said.
To speak, Councillor Hewitt, at some stage.
But otherwise, yeah, I think it's a really good result.
Other speakers, Councillor Pike.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the staff. I think the staff have done a tremendous job, and this gives a very comprehensive overview of the work that has been done over that financial year, and to give that sort of picture of the work of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, I think is fantastic. So just well done. Thank you.
Councillor Hewitt, did you...
I thought we'd agreed that we were going to get more information on the $50,000 being retained by the works group before we passed this, so I'm confused as to how
I agree with the first bit, but not the second. We didn't go as far as the second piece. So if you're uncomfortable with that, you can vote against it, obviously.
Or can I move an amendment that we seek further information on the $50,000 before
You've sort of already spoken, but I think that is coming, that the further information that was agreed in the body. So if you have anything else to add, please. No. Okay. Other speakers.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
this is for audit purposes.
In regard to the issue raised by Councillor Hewitt, we don't actually report the operations of the operations group as in effect, with profit and loss account as per a commercial enterprise, do we?
No, no, we don't. Those results are wound up into our account. I mean, the operations group do have their own reporting.
Yeah, I mean, it would.
Oh, sorry.
Your statement is what I'm looking for, Councillor.
Well, my statement,
we don't need it. We don't need an answer.
Is simply that if in fact we did so, it would become quite clear to everyone, including Councillor Hewitt, I imagine, that there is a need, as in any commercial enterprise, to have some retention of profit for internal reinvestment. So if subsequently we can be provided with such a report and statement, then hopefully everyone will be happy. And maybe next year do it in advance.
Great solution. Any other speakers? Wish to sum up, Councillor Scott? Oh, good. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And the contrary, no. Carried. Thank you.